Okay, good. Okay, so I just wanted to start out and just show you one of the things that I really appreciate about Washington State and the Northwest MLS. They started 2 years ago when they first started that class action lawsuit, and their people became very, very proactive. So our buyer agreement, I think, is what, 3 pages, two, maybe three. And as I was saying, Lois was in California, and I just want to show you what they go through. So there's page 3, 4, 5. Anyways, this thing is 12 pages long.
Just for a buyer like agreement?
That's all it is.
Wow.
And it is, I tried to read it, and it's horrible. Anyways, so it's 12 pages long, and it just goes through so much, but I just wanted everyone to see this um, and understand and appreciate that Northwest MLS has done a great job, because they have made it so that it's very concise. They've been
Mhm.
very proactive. A lot of places had to make a whole bunch of changes at one time. And as you know, we've been making small changes over the last 2 or 3 years. So, anyways, I just wanted to talk about the buyer services agreement, and it's just a buyer brokerage services agreement. And I just want to remind everyone that before you have anybody sign an offer, you need to have them sign this agreement. And I have seen it come through where the purchase and sale agreement they signed, and then they went through and signed the buyer's agreement. At least send it first so it's its own document in Authenticsign. Okay. Next, I just wanted to take a look at, this was probably the worst counteroffer I've ever seen. It's a brand new construction. And instead of doing a Form 36, I'll go through all these pages, but there was no washer dryer. They wanted to change the price and change the days of verification from 3 to 10. This broker, I don't think is new or is not very smart,
Hmm.
because some of the things that they did were not in the best of their sellers'
Hmm.
um, uh,
Yeah, I've never
interest.
seen a common interest community form. Is that a
That is
form?
that's a brand new one. I've never
Gotcha.
seen that one,
Okay.
and
Huh.
I'll have to take a look at that.
Hmm.
But just two things. The FERPTA technically is not a part of the contract. I mean, you can put it here, and a lot of people do. It's just really depends on what they want to do. And then Naomi had submitted a perfect offer, and then it came back and it was all marked up. And the very first thing that happened when this came back in, I couldn't download it. And when I finally got it, it was 239 pages long. So this
Wow.
person uh, put the CCNRs, they put the whole plat process in here, filing and everything. There were like 5 or 6 different things. This should have been about a 15, 18 page document,
Mhm.
and 239 was just ridiculous.
Yeah.
So, as you can see here, um, and then of course the next several pages uh, are just the blank form. And then
Hmm.
if you go to the financing, oh, you know what? It's on page 2, and let me just see if that's here. No, I've got it somewhere in my documents, but my documents are mixed up, so I apologize for that. But page 2, the very first thing,
Mhm.
item 3, is the loan cost provisions, and they put in that they would pay $10,000. That wasn't requested by Naomi and the buyer when they made it.
So they
Uh,
like changed the purchase price and gave a credit to, weird.
yes, yes, because they offered
It wasn't originally.
720 something thousand. 20, oh, just 20,000, and they changed the price to 739.9.
And then added a credit the buyer never asked for.
Yeah,
So the
it,
seller's just paying more excise tax and getting the same amount of money pretty much that they, that's weird. Or wait,
yeah,
no. So 720, now it's 739. Okay.
yeah. And so they added almost $20,000, $100 shy of
Mhm.
that. Um, and I'm going to put this over here. Okay, and then the changes that they made, the utilities, they could have done that on the 22K.
Mhm.
And they removed stuff, and then they had C addendum, and then they added all this information, and that's okay. It just really, you have to look at every single page.
It's a lot of initials.
Yeah, and the reason I put this in here, there were no changes on this.
Mhm.
Like the irrigation district, it was all included, but it's just such a beautiful 22K. I just put it in there because
Yeah, it's nice to see.
yeah, it's all there. Let me see, that reminds me. Um, okay, so then the next one, they this was what was downloaded from the Associated Docs. And I know that you have seen, Ashley, you've seen where they require those.
Mhm.
And then I'll show you what they did with that. Uh, Naomi wrote one where the seller shall install a privacy fence between the bushes and the primary, and then install, and I wrote through this. So what they did to the second addendum on 34 is then they mark through those two things, and then they took that other document that they uh, put out, and here they put the same thing that they put on 22D. So that's in two different places. The internet and cable, it then they just rewrote everything that they had there. And then these are all the extra documents that were included in it. And then to provide, because it was in the process of getting final plat approval, it was
Mhm.
a temporary legal description uh,
Gotcha.
that was put up there, and then they added this. So what they did is they took an existing 34, instead of just marking through it and putting a brand new one, then they added all this garbage to this particular document. Um,
Wow.
okay, let me see where my, uh, here it is.
Stop it. You can't walk over my computer. Big doofus.
Okay, I can't seem to bring this one up. I've got it here somewhere. Let me just cancel out some of these and maybe it will show up. Oh, here it is right. No, that is not the document I want. Okay, I'm gonna have to find it just a second. Um, okay, why can't I open that one up?
So did she just go through and just initial
Yeah,
all?
but that's what she had to do to get mutual.
Mhm,
She had to go through every one of those documents and make sure that they initialed everything.
mhm,
Maybe this is it. No, that's not it. I don't want that. Oh, here it is. There we go. So then what I just wanted to do is just take a look, and this is the way that it should have been done. From
mhm,
it was back from the seller to the buyer, and um, and then it should reference, and then individually, then you make all the changes here.
mhm,
And the only thing that I didn't do here is because I ran out of time, was that last part where they wrote in all those things.
mhm.
And it should have been on this form. And if we needed to have like a second page added to it, then we certainly can. But I just wanted to show this is the right way to be able to do it. And then, of course, if it was ours, then we would have the reference for from the seller to the buyer. And let me just move this over here real quick. No, it's not. Oh, there it goes. This counteroffer addendum takes precedent or supersedes any conflict or ambiguity in the original purchase and sale agreement.
I think you have the address of the deal me and Blanca did last in your address part. Um,
Oh, that very well could be.
yeah, I think, yeah, that was the one. Oh, that's,
Oh, you know what? I thought I got that all out of there.
oh, whatever.
Let, yeah, let me, because if we send this out, well, it doesn't matter.
Oh,
I
you're
think that's
saying
a
send it to
PDF.
the office. Yeah, we can redact it then.
I'll make sure that that is redacted. But anyways, so I just wanted to talk about the buyer brokerage services agreement, how lucky we are just to have 3 pages instead of 12. And then I wanted to talk about the importance of a counter offer to make your contract clean so you don't have to go through every single page and make sure everything is caught.
Mhm.
And then I have a couple of things that came in. Let me just see if I can find this. Um, Let me just open these up. And they are in regards to, I was going to do this about 3 weeks ago. Uh, there we are. Just questions that came in about uh, the inspection response. We've had a couple of really weird ones.
Mhm.
And so I just quickly wanted to go over this. This broker represents the seller, and they had mutual acceptance on a certain date. And then I don't know if this Monday, the 21st, uh, I don't know what day tonight
Yeah.
is, but they sent an inspection response that says, see attached summary, followed by 58 pages of the inspection summary and full report. Um, the broker didn't look at it, but according to their purchase and sale agreement on Form 35, paragraph 4, clearly states if you send any or all of an inspection report, then your inspection is waived. So this buyer broker was not really careful.
Mhm.
Um, if we got something like this and it was out of compliance. In other words, the inspection was uh, contingency period was done, then inspection is satisfied. So this buyer broker really put their client in a really difficult situation. So the answer, the last question is, am I correct before I respond? Has this been waived? And she says that as long as nothing is marked indicating their consent, it would appear that the buyer waived the inspection contingency. And listing broker should immediately have a conversation with the seller and let them know what their options are. They could assert the buyer's waiver and cease negotiation with the buyer. Or they could announce the buyer's waiver and agree to entertain a reasonable request from the buyer on concessions. Or the seller could ignore the waiver and move forward as though there was no waiver, and then the last one is the sellers could take some other approach. The correct way for the buyer broker to have done that is to go back and reference Form 35, and then whatever item number that is for the number of days, and change it. Get that done first, and then negotiate the changes for the inspection. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Anyways, it just really put that really put the buyer broker really put the buyer in a very dangerous situation. Wait a second. This was almost the same thing where it went through. The seller's broker said, go ahead and send a 35R. And once again, the best thing to do is to make sure that you extend those days so that keeps it within contract. And
Mhm.
I thought that was really interesting. We had two of them just like that. And then this last one is about where a buyer is looking at a home that had an addition, but it didn't have any permits for it. And I thought it was really interesting because there are so many things that could go wrong with that. Your buyer really has to get into it and have a professional look at it and make sure that they can get a permit approved after the fact. So here are some of the pitfalls when your seller has made an improvement, but they don't have um, any building permits for the addition. And that's why on Form 17, that's an asterisk yes answer. If they answer yes and they don't give any more information, that's a huge red flag.
Mhm.
So then let's just look at some of the things for your buyer. Um, Related to unpermitted remodel work from the buyer's lawyer or consultant who is familiar with the building department. So that's the number one thing that a buyer would want to do, would be a contractor uh, that would be able to go in and take a look at it and say professionally, yeah, I think everything was done right, and I think we can get this approved after a fact. Now, there are some really scary hidden things. Um, Construction defects to necessitate future repairs, like to a bathroom plumbing and to surrounding areas if failed bathroom plumbing causes damages to the surrounding areas in the future. So if it has to do with the bathroom or you doing anything with the plumbing, it's really important that they make sure that's okay. Uh, Requirement by local jurisdiction to complete a started permit application. So possibly they started one, but they never finished it. Requirement by local government to remove bathroom addition. Yuck. Um, so if you buy this thing and then you find out you have to remove that bathroom, or Local government to allow any remodels of the home until the unpermitted work is permitted. And that usually requires cutting into walls to view the plumbing,
Mhm.
electrical, all of that stuff. The fifth area is dangerous living conditions if improper materials or construction practices were utilized in a remodel. How many times have we seen where somebody just, um, I saw a house where there was a bathroom and then they put the wall up and uh, then they just added a toilet just on the other side of the wall.
Hmm.
It was just the weirdest thing I think I've ever seen. They had to take that all out. And so whatever work or money went into that is just too bad.
Mhm.
A requirement to disclose to the next buyer that the bathroom remodel was unpermitted. So when you are working with a seller, you just need to make sure that if they mark that, just start asking some questions.
Mhm.
Was it permitted? And is it something that you have records for? A broker should not attempt to answer this question for the buyer, but should advise the buyer in writing to seek the advice of the buyer's lawyer or a construction expert. This is the type of communication to a client that should be preserved in the firm's transaction folder as future proof of the communication. That's just really super important to make sure that that has been done. I just thought those couple of things on inspection and this one on adding unpermitted completion or remodel work, I thought that was pretty uh, interesting.
Mhm.
Okay, let me just close that. Um, Now, I just want to bring this over. And the last thing I just want to talk about is I had a couple of not so nice notes
Hmm.
about compliance. And so this by no means is a everything, but uh, for me to sit down and be able to just go through some of the things, just the key things that I find on a daily basis. Matter of fact, some of these I found today. The very first things to remember regarding compliance is upload documents within 2 days. Kelly and I came across a contract that is going to close. Today's Tuesday, on Thursday, and nothing, not even the buyer or the seller. Uh, I'm not exactly sure, but the escrow company finally sent something and copied uh, Kelly on it, and nothing has been put into command. And so if the Department of License comes in and finds that, I don't know what they do, but that's one of the things they check for. That's one of the things that the company gets fined for, and which of course would be passed on to the broker. So here was a transaction that was never inputted. And then this morning, I found a transaction that was dated August 19th that had never been uploaded into command. So it's
Oh.
just, yeah,
Hmm.
so it's really bad. um, oh, just a couple of things. And Ashley, you send out the best emails because they have specific topics. And anybody that ever listens to this, if you didn't get an email, then Ashley or I have them saved, and they're just wonderful step-by-step instructions on how to upload.
Mhm.
And the next thing that I see all the time is I see like 5 or 6 documents. Like it says a purchase and sale agreement. So I'll see a counter and I may see even up to the entire document. I'll return that and just upload form, whatever the PSA is, form 21 only, and then make sure that that is the header. Um, uh, Buyer brokerage service agreement really needs to be written up and signed before an offer is written.
Mhm.
So I just saw one where it was at the end of a purchase and sale agreement. So offline, I just kind of called them up and said, that's a really big no-no. Don't do that. Another one that somebody asked, and this was a newer broker, and I understand that. Once you get mutual, if you're going to do a general addendum, you use a new one each time one is needed. And the last thing on this, just general overall, let's say you uploaded the um, uh, earnest money receipt and I approved it. But it's still, you got an email that came back and says that's been returned to you. And the reason for that is because there are other documents. Let's say it doesn't have a title report or it doesn't have a legal description, or there's something that's missing, the communication, or like on an offer, the broker demand. And as we spoke about a couple of weeks ago, Kelly really requests, once you put in your offer, then the next thing you do is you go down and then you create the broker demand that you send to Kelly on that. And then the last reminder is that, oh, and if I approve like the earnest money receipt, but they're still missing things, then it will send you an email that says your document's been approved, but they're still missing documents.
Mhm.
And then the last one is all documents must be approved by closing and accepted before a check will be distributed. I know that most everybody knows that, but in case that is news. On the buyer brokerage services agreement on the consulting part of command, you need to have a fully filled out and fully signed. And I probably a third of those I return because the broker doesn't sign them. So make sure that you sign it and then upload it. And if you can do that within those 2 days, that's really important. And that you have a Washington pamphlet initialed by the buyer or buyers. Uh, if you are doing a limited dual agency, then you will want to put a Form 42 signed by both the seller and the buyers if you're doing both sides. It's not really a requirement, but that's a good place for it to go. You can put it on the contract side, but it really goes on the consulting side because that's getting permission for you to be able to be a limited dual agent. Now, by any means, this is not uh, complete. And if there's something that you think of, we can add to it quite easily. Um, so if you're doing a new listing, then of course you want your listing agreement. And many times now, since the new update, you can have up to 90 days for the seller to get ready. And so make sure it's fully filled out and signed. And once again, the listing broker signature is probably the thing I see the most that isn't included. I believe on those, they have to initial the page as well. I'm trying to visualize that document. I can't. Also, the pamphlet with a seller, you want to make sure that you have that. That's just as important, explaining that. And let me just initial by the sellers. Let me see, I just thought of something else. A legal description. And I really like for that to be initial by the sellers, but Russ does not require that. So I don't send it back if it isn't.
Mm.
The listing import, the most common things are there's no listing number in the top of page 1. And on page 2, there's not a complete address. Street number, street, city, state, zip, code. These are all requirements. And then the most other common thing that I see is that there are no marketing or broker remarks, or it says to be determined. So I send those back, and all you have to do is go into your listing input and just copy those 2 sections and just make sure that they're included on your final upload of your input form. BRPTA, the most 2 things that I see most of the time is that lines 10 and 13. Line 10 is the one, this is for the address at, and that box needs to be checked. That's a federal form. And line 13, are they or are they not aliens?
Mhm.
And Form 22K and 22J, if used in the associated docs, just remember to fill in the top portion when you're using them in your offer for the date and the buyer's names. Those are usually, and then just remember that in the 22K, you need to have the utility, address, city, state, and zip. They don't care about a phone number. I won't say any more about that. And if you are listing, then on the listing side, on the consulting part of it, then be sure to upload all the documents that you had in associated docs. And that way they're all together in one place on the company um, uh, archives. And then Form 17, just really make sure that it's fully filled out, every single line. They've signed on 5, and mostly the seller forgets to initial page 6. And sometimes they just wait until an offer comes through or after mutual, when they can initial it after the buyer has signed it. So that's fine, but it just has to be done before it's uploaded. As a broker, it is our responsibility to check every single line and make sure there's a box checked and there are no blank lines. The asterisk, yes, and there's room right there to make a comment or go to page 5, or you can use an additional page. And then always make sure line 33, that's, are they occupying it? Yes or no? And those are the major things that I see every day. Uh, any questions?
Not for me.
Okay. And the chat, Blanca, thank you very much. You have a good day too. I'm glad that you thought that information was good. All right, we're just a little bit over.
I do have a quick, if you have another minute, or I can call and ask you later.
No, this is fine.
Do you have a Form 35R you can pull up?
I can.
And I could go on the hotline too, but while you're here, I thought I'd ask you because you probably know.
All right.
And then if Luis hasn't called you yet, he's gonna call you today. I could just tell you on that one. His buyers turned in earnest money and then they backed out during the home inspection period. So they sent over the 35R and the Form 50, and the listing agent responded back, texted and said, received. And it's been like 4 days and they still haven't signed the Form 50 and the agent isn't answering. And his buyers really kind of want their earnest money back.
Sure.
So yeah, he's just kind of struggling at what the heck
If
do I,
he calls me and
okay,
emails me a copy of uh, the purchase and order, purchase and sale
mhm,
agreement, and then the 35R and the 50,
mhm,
then I'll call that broker as the
okay,
managing broker and say that these people are waiting, and is
mhm,
there an issue? Uh,
okay. I was
yeah,
thinking that's probably,
yeah,
that's a brokerage he used to work at, so I think him trying to call the main broker there would be a little awkward for him, so,
yeah. No,
uh,
I don't,
okay.
I'm happy to do that. And yeah, just have him send me that information, then give me a call and I'll call and do that. And there's a 35R. Do you see that?
I don't, you might need to unshare and share again if it's on a different screen.
Oh, I thought I put it back up. Oh,
I don't know. I'm still on I still see just the hotline question about the plumbing or the permits.
oh,
Oh, now I see it.
okay.
Okay, perfect. Um, so this one, if you scroll down a little bit, just so we could see the three sections. So, okay, I just want to make sure I'm understanding this right. So, buyer, we give over our response. And then let's say the seller's in spot response in the second section. So let's say they select the seller rejects all proposals by the buyer. That just has one little asterisk. So then it says at the bottom, this is a notice which requires only one buyer or seller's signature. So to me, when they're saying this is a notice, that makes me think the buyer does not have a chance to say, okay, well, you rejected it, but I'm fine moving forward anyways. Like, that's the part that confuses me because there was one deal a while back, like, it was somebody else's, but like they asked for something and then the seller, um, like rejected it. And then they said, okay, we're fine with what you rejected. We'll move forward anyways. But just the asterisk saying it's a notice is what throws me off because it doesn't
Mhm.
say seller rejects all proposals and earnest money shall be refunded. Like it doesn't talk about it like it's killing.
Yeah,
No.
so you are correct. Part three, they can accept their response and just go to closing.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, they can reject it and it's terminated and the earnest money is returned.
Mm-hmm.
But in addition, they can also accept something else. I mean, offer something else. That I mean
That's
that
the last time to
yeah,
go back and
yeah.
forth. Yeah, it's just this is a notice part that really threw me off. Like, well, it's
Well,
not
sure,
really,
but it
uh,
is a notice. It's a notice like the buyer approving it, the buyer disapproving it, the buyer requesting additional inspections, or the buyer requesting. These are all notices. So I think um,
hmm,
it just gives notice that they're not doing nothing.
mm-hmm,
And you take it the way it is or you
mm-hmm,
don't. And so then the buyer does have the ability to agree or disagree or suggest yet another alternative.
gotcha. So yeah, a seller then really doesn't have a way to, back out of a transaction even during the home inspection. Because if they say, nope, I'm not giving you anything, the buyer could still say, okay, we'll move forward anyways. So it's
Yeah,
interesting how like buyer positive deals are and that the seller has like no way to change their mind, you know?
that's correct.
It's interesting. Okay, well, I just wanted to clarify
Yeah,
that part. Um, but yeah, thanks, Marcia.
thank you.
Yeah.
You have a
You
great day, and I
too.
appreciate you staying on. It
Yeah.
makes it so much easier when there's a person to talk
Yes.
to.
Yeah, a little bit. That's what I was thinking.
All
Okay,
righty.
sounds
Thank
good.
you.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.